Imagine waking up tomorrow and every single person on Earth has been turned into a baby. No adults, no teenagers, no elders, just a planet full of infants. It sounds like the plot of a science fiction movie. But what would happen in this bizarre scenario? Let's explore the consequences and what the world would look like if everyone, from world leaders to your next-door neighbor, became a helpless baby overnight. First off, the most immediate consequence would be total chaos. There would be no adults to take care of the infrastructure of our world. Buildings, roads, power grids, and transportation systems would all stop functioning. With no one to drive cars, run factories, or manage businesses, everything would grind to a halt. Society relies on adults to maintain order, and without them, everything would break down. The global economy is built on the shoulders of working adults, so with everyone turned into babies, economic collapse would be inevitable. Markets would crash as companies shutter, production stops, and no one is left to manage trade or commerce. Food, goods, and resources would become scarce. Without workers to produce or distribute essentials, the economy would implode. Healthcare and technology are driven by skilled professionals, from doctors to engineers. Without them, hospitals would be left empty and abandoned. With no one to care for babies, scientific research would halt. Innovations like the internet, computers, and modern medicine would quickly become obsolete without adults to manage them. With no one to care for the planet, there would be environmental consequences as well. Climate change initiatives, deforestation efforts, and pollution control would be abandoned. Babies, naturally, are not equipped to reverse the damage done to the Earth. In time, the planet would likely suffer from worsening pollution, loss of biodiversity, and even more drastic climate shifts, simply because no one would be left to manage the environmental challenges facing us. Now, let's talk about the babies themselves. Babies can't take care of themselves. They need food, shelter, and constant attention. With no adults around to care for them, they would face survival challenges. What would happen to the babies in the short term? If any of them managed to survive, it would be due to their physical proximity to resources like food and water. But the global population would rapidly dwindle without caregivers. If somehow the Earth's resources were divided up to sustain this infantile population, it wouldn't be sustainable for long. Babies need constant nurturing, but the lack of infrastructure and caregiving adults would likely lead to a very short-lived situation. The population would either fall dramatically due to starvation, disease, or lack of care, or it would be a world left in a state of perpetual infantile dependency with no way of progressing. If somehow a new form of civilization started to emerge with these babies growing up again, they'd face the monumental challenge of starting from scratch. They would need to rebuild society, develop new technologies, and create an entirely new system of governance. But it would take generations before they could even begin to form a functional society again. Babies can't create the world we know. They need adults to build and teach. If every person on Earth turned into a baby, the world would experience a total collapse. There would be no one to manage essential services, maintain order, or keep civilization running. The babies would be left vulnerable and helpless with no means of self-sustenance. While it's a fascinating thought experiment, it's clear that human society is built on the skills, labor, and governance of adults. And without them, civilization as we know it would cease to exist. Now that was a fun one. Now let's talk about what would happen if every single person on Earth turned 100 years old. By novel, but imagine a world where age is no longer determined by time. It's universal, instantaneous, and everyone, from newborns to the elderly, wakes up one day as a centenarian. What would happen to society, the economy, and the planet itself? First, let's break down the basics. Everyone's physical appearance would drastically change. While you might expect gray hair, wrinkles, and mobility issues, there's more to it. In reality, the biological systems of a 100-year-old aren't all the same. So would people be instantly frail? Or would their bodies just look aged without the accompanying weaknesses? Researchers would likely find that not all aspects of aging, like cognitive decline or organ function, would be instantly reset. In fact, the sudden acceleration of aging could overwhelm the body, causing health crises on a massive scale. Health services would be pushed to the brink. Hospitals, already strained in many parts of the world, would be flooded with patients needing urgent care. Sudden heart conditions, respiratory issues, joint pains, and more. This could create a global healthcare disaster, as even the most advanced medical systems would struggle to cope. The workforce would experience a massive upheaval. In many countries, older individuals are already retiring or have retired. But imagine if the entire workforce was suddenly composed of people aged 100. What would happen to productivity? Could older individuals still perform their jobs? Many would find it hard to continue working at the same pace, which could disrupt economies globally. Industries that depend on youthful energy and innovation, like tech and entertainment, might be hit hardest. Meanwhile, there would be a surge in demand for caregivers and roles requiring compassion and experience, like healthcare and social work. Then there's the psychological impact. Imagine the mental strain of waking up to a body that feels and looks 100, yet your mind is still that of a young adult. It's a sort of identity crisis, an existential shock, and for families, the roles would blur. Parents might suddenly appear as grandparents to their children, and the generational divide would disappear entirely. Family dynamics would likely shift with the concept of life stages disappearing. Everyone would be at the same stage of life. An unsettling thought, for many education could see both challenges and opportunities. If children were somehow affected by this transformation as well, they'd be physically 100, but mentally still young. Would it lead to a new form of intergenerational learning, where elderly people, with their wealth of knowledge, teach the younger generation? Or would cognitive decline become an issue, leaving many to forget what they once knew? On the global scale, the aging of everyone would put immense strain on the planet's resources. A higher proportion of elderly people would increase demand for healthcare, pensions, and food, while reducing the workforce. Social programs and infrastructure would need to adapt to cater to a world where everyone is of the same advanced age. At the same time, global environmental issues like overpopulation, pollution, and climate change would be exacerbated. A population predominantly aged 100 might struggle to work towards long-term solutions, leading to a world that's increasingly divided between those who can work and those who can't. But it wouldn't all be doom and gloom. Such a radical shift in humanity could spark a revolution in how we view aging. With technology, medicine, and a focus on intergenerational solidarity, we might find ways to make life at 100 more vibrant, sustainable, and meaningful. New innovations in health and longevity might emerge, leading to ways of reversing or slowing aging. In fact, a world where everyone is 100 could force us to rethink the way we live, work, and care for each other, creating a society that values wisdom, experience, and cooperation over speed, youth, and competition. So while a world where everyone turns 100 would bring unimaginable challenges, it could also open up a future where age truly becomes just a number. We might learn to create a world where everyone's value is seen and respected, regardless of how old they are. After all, it's not the number of years that define us, but the way we live them. What do you think would happen if everyone turned 100? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more thought-provoking scenarios.